How's it going? Coincidence today with another video, and today, guys, what we're going to do is a complete guide to Swordsoul. Now, the deck itself is something that I've loved for a very long time because as soon as it was released, I really loved the artwork, I really loved the way that they played, but what really intrigued me about the deck was how they summoned themselves. So, the best deck of all time, Undisputed, a striker, has the most wins, most tops. That deck is all about Link 1s. The second best deck of all time is Zodiac, and that's all about one-card XCs. Now we have a deck that's based around one-card Synchroing, and that's actually really huge because we've always said that if Synchro gets the right support, it could be insane. So this is one of those opportunities for us to really see like what Synchroing can do. I really like the deck because it has a lot of ways that you can play it. You can go first, you can go second. Either way, you can play the tennies. I had a build that was Kaiju Swordsoul, which I think is really nice too, because if you have like the Godarla and you have the Gamecial, then you have access to 11 and 12 synchro plays, and it just really gives you more options in the deck. So I really do like the amount of extenders that the deck has as well. I do feel like that it may only be getting a lot of tops right now just because of the sheer number of people that are playing it. I do feel like the decks that we already have, that being Dragon, VW, Tribe, Bird Up, are just inherently better than this deck. But I've also said that having just a negation and an interruption is more than enough, especially just to live to blow out your opponent the next turn. Also, the deck has a lot of very nice power cards, things like Baxia, having Ecclesia just to basically like cyberjacket itself onto the board. There's a lot of very cool things that you can do with the build. So I feel like there is a lot of potential for the deck to really grow into the format and really kind of earn itself a spot. So as of right now, I feel like the deck is lacking some power, but this is also before any support. So I am very excited to see what the deck can do. I was really excited for the deck, and then I put it down for a while, and now that it's out, I'm kind of getting another like wave to kind of figure out what it can do. So I'm going to be basically breaking down the deck for you today a lot more than I did on the Shaddoll Invoke Dogmatica. I know in that video I left out some theory and technical play. I do apologize for that, but especially with Swordsoul, this is something where I'm not going to miss that because I have so much theory that comes with this deck. And as always, we're going to be ending toward the end of the video with a how to build the deck and giving the most accurate deck profile as of right now. Especially with things like Ecclesia. I know it's kind of controversial to run less than 3, but I run 2. And the reason for that is the fact that it's a spellcaster, and you always want to see as many worms as possible in your hand with things like Long Young, things like Mo Yi to reveal a worm in your hand. And you don't want it to get too clunky because you already have like decent normal summons in the deck. And if you are going first, then you don't want to see way too many Ecclesias in your hand. And running 2 is fine because you'll still see it, you just won't brick on it. So that's my reason to just run 2. I don't really think you need more than that, honestly. The deck itself, though, has a lot of interesting ways it can be ran, so I'm excited to explore that in this video. If you are here at the end, please let me know what you think about the new field center that I will be revealing here. I'm very excited about it. It came out beautifully. There's going to be a big shout out for that as well with who made it. So again, I am very excited to show you that, but that'll be at the end of the video as a surprise. If you do make it that far, again, please let me know down in the comments below how you thought about it. We will be on our way to 10K soon. If you are new here, please feel free to subscribe. When we hit 10K, I'll be hosting a second tournament, and it's going to be all PayPal based. We're going to be doing it not a US lock tournament, so it'll be open to everyone. It'll be 100% payout, and it'll be a remote dueling instead of dueling book. So I am looking forward to that. This is kind of my testing ground with my first tournament to see exactly how it's going to go. If you are unaware, tomorrow, which is going to be 11/13, at 10 a.m. EST, I'm going to be hosting a tournament, and you can actually go and watch it live on my Twitch. My Twitch will actually be in the description below. I'm really excited, honestly, to see what everyone has to bring. It's going to be my first tournament that I'm watching post-Bode, so hopefully we get a lot of diversity in the format there as well. Last but not least, as far as Swordsoul goes, I want to shout out one of my mods, Invoked, or as I know him as Junchi. He's always going to be there in my streams. He's always there when I'm testing. It's something that, especially with Swordsoul, when I first was breaking the deck and figuring out how to work it, he was my #1 testing partner. So just big shout outs to you because it's just something that I really feel like we both get credit in this deck because we took the time to really learn it and get ahead of the curve when it came to this. So without further ado, let's go right into the deck and let's talk about all the different cards. We're going to be breaking down each card individually because if you have never read the cards before, I want to make sure that you're prepared when you're playing against them. Or if you plan on picking up the deck, I want to make sure that you know exactly what the cards do. So it is really nice to see the best extender in your deck and the best starter, which is Ecclesia, because it's also just a free summon. Big note for you is that this is a free summon. It's an inherent summon. Don't reveal this in your hand and try to activate it. That is not exactly legal anyway. So it's just going to summon to the board. There's been some people I've seen actually like lose because of that, because they'll like reveal it and then the other person didn't know that it wasn't like an activated effect, which is just bad. And then it gets like hit with a negation when it should just be summoning to the board. So the thing that I really like about Ecclesia, right, is the fact that when it's on the board, you contribute it for cost for its effect. So it only loses to like Ash and Called By instead of Valor and Imperm, which are very popular right now. So that's why I really enjoy this card in general, because it's able to tutor out your Moyi or your Taiye. You can summon the Long Young, but you're mostly just summoning like the Moyi Taiye, because it's just like your best starters in the deck. I personally always like summoning Taiye because it's not just on summon. And then even if you do get impermed, you can still banish for cost, which is very good as well. If you are playing Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, Ecclesia has a cool effect that you can add it back to your hand if a fusion goes to the grave that turn, I believe. So it's just another really good interaction with the card as well, that if you are playing DPE, then you get multiple uses out of your Ecclesia. The next card I want to talk about here is the Moyi himself. So you're able to actually reveal a Swordsoul card or a worm in your hand, and then you'll be able to summon a token to the field. What I do like about this card is that when you summon the level 8 Synchro Chizao, you're able to actually chain block, and then you'll go Chizao to add a Swordsoul card or banish a Swordsoul card from your deck. And then you'll be able to go ahead and go chain link to Moyi to draw. So it's just a very good +2 here. And then this will obviously just go to your grave. So this is another one that I think is really good, but you need something in hand to reveal, and you won't always have that. So I feel like this one is just actually lackluster compared to Taiye, which is really wild because I've been seeing a lot of people playing less Taiye than Moyi, which I honestly just think is incorrect. But this one is still a very solid one for you because of that draw is also just always very important, as we know. Card advantage is card advantage. The next thing up here is Taiye. So again, this one actually allows you to banish for cost. So if you banish like your sudden shift from the graveyard, then you're actually able to summon a token anyways if you get impermed or valored, which is very, very nice too. Just because it allows you to play through more things. Then when this is sent to the graveyard, you're actually able to Foolish a Worm or a Swordsoul card, which is very important because you can get to your Ashuna if you're playing the Tennies, or your Vishuda if you need to like out a card. So just a lot of very good versatility in Taiye. Again, this is another one that when you summon it, you don't have to activate it right away. That's why I really like it, because you can kind of time it for when you want to. So the next one here is going to be our Long Young. This one actually is really cool because it pressures negation very hard. When you go ahead and you use Long Young for your hand, you will be sending a Swordsoul card or a worm from your hand to the grave. And then when you go to summon the Long Young, it'll summon Long and then the token. So they can't really like impermanent on the board or anything to stop the token being summoned. And what's really cool about it is if it's used as synchro material, you can actually burn for 1200, which in the long run is actually a lot of damage, which is very nice too. I really enjoy this card a lot, especially with a new card that's coming out eventually. I believe in Battle to Chaos that keeps burning for 12. This is just another very good effect to have. But again, so this card actually just allows you to go straight into your Baron, which if they can't stop this, then you'll get a free negation on your board. And that's pretty scary for your opponent, especially when you summon Baron, because Baron actually allows you to blow up a card for free as well. So Long Young is definitely scary. You got to be watching out for this, because if you like negate something and then they just reveal Long, it's going to be a rough time. Next card I want to talk about is the best power card in the deck. It's definitely Baxia. Being able to non-targeting bounce cards back to the deck with alone the deck, which is pretty crazy. It's not even like the hand. Is always very strong. And then soft once per turn, you can target a card in the field, so usually itself, and they level 4 or lower monster in your grave, destroy itself, and then summon the other monster back. So like you can use Baxia to spend like 2 cards, and then you can go ahead, summon back Moyi, reveal one in your hand, like make Chizao, search. Like it's pretty wild. Baxia is really amazing. I personally play 2 because the follow-up with this card, if you ever need it, again, is just honestly cracked. And again, it's once per turn soft. So like I think that's amazing. Best power card in the deck, hands down. The other thing is a lot of people are siding one Protoss. So I don't know if you guys noticed this. Moi's a water, Taiye is a wind, and then you have Long, which is a fire. So when you go to use the Protoss, it says you can declare one monster attribute on the field, destroy all monsters on the field with that attribute. Also, until the end of the next turn, neither player can special summon monsters with that attribute. So you have a wide pool of attributes to choose from, which is always very nice, especially if you're playing like the Tennies. And I believe Vishuda is a dark, and then you have a Hara that is a earth, and then a Shuna, which is a light. I could be wrong in a couple of those. I think that's pretty accurate. But it just gives you a very big toolbox as to which cards you can just allow your opponent to not be able to summon, which is why Protoss is just so good, having the ability to summon it, let alone use this effect, because the summoning conditions, you have to banish 3 monsters with different attributes from your graveyard or face up on your field, which can be hefty for certain decks, but Swordsoul can really just abuse it. That's why they always cite it at 1, because the Swordsoul Emergence, which is the Rhoda, actually allows you to search this card, which is honestly just so broken, because it can just really shut down a game very fast. The next thing I want to talk about is your typical end board. So Cheats Out right here, this is a card that allows you to basically imperm a card in the board, and then you also are able to search that Swordsoul card or banish one from your deck. You have the Baron, which is your Omni Negate, and then you also have the Sudden Shift, which allows you to tribute a worm monster you control and then pop 2 cards your opponent controls, which is also very, very strong, because you have basically like the negate, and then you have the interruption. So again, usually that's more than enough. Right now we're in a format where there's a lot of board breaking cards, so maybe the deck will need something a little bit more just so it can kind of out that problem as well. So the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that if you ever see this right here, the semicolon, that just means cost for those of you who are like newer, or like really trying to understand like PSET. So this is something right here that's really important, because again, you being able to banish a Swordsoul card for cost, it will really go a long way in your combos. That's why I really find it cool that no one's really doing this yet. I think that it's a really nice idea though, is that you can actually tech in a 1 of Foolish Burial Goods. So when you do have this card, it's another option to be able to send like a Sudden Shift to your graveyard. So your Taiye can actually banish it right away, and it plays around things like Imperm and Valor, and gives you another line of play, which I think is very nice as well. Another thing that you can do with that, though, is if you want, you can Foolish a Emergence, or if you are playing Peak, you can Foolish Peak. And then when you banish this with Taiye, you can level mod the token up 1 or down 1. And what's really cool about that is you can go ahead and make things like Yazi, which will allow you to actually just threaten something on the board. This card cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects, so Yazi alone is very scary and can put a lot of pressure on the board. When Yazi is destroyed, you can summon a worm monster from your deck in defense. So even if you have like Yazi on the board, right, and then they go like a DPE effect because they're threatened, then even if the Yazi dies, like you're still able to summon out another extender. So I feel like this is another very, very good usage out of this, especially having things like the Foolish Burial Goods, to be able to play around another interruption on things like your Taiye right away, which is another really cool thing and technical play that you should be looking for. The other thing that you should really know is that the Adhara, or the other worm support, usually is very generic. So if you look at like the Adhara alone, you can banish this card from your hand or grave, then target 1 of your banished worm monsters. So it doesn't even have to be another Tenyi. Like if you have a banished Taiye, or you use Taiye to banish like a Moyi, and then you use Adhara, once you use this to summon a token, you can add back that Moyi and then normal the Moyi, which is really nice as well. So you have a lot of very good utility in the deck, especially using the Tenyis, which I think is always the best way to run it. But I've been seeing a lot of like go second board breaking cards as well, which is honestly fine. The next thing I want to talk about here is the fact that Vessel is one of the most broken cards in the deck. And if you do not understand what this card does, you should pick up quite a few copies, because this is a very fun card to resolve on your opponent. It literally says Foolish and then Rhoda. So what it allows you to do is send a worm monster from your deck to the grave. Then if you control a face-up non-effect monster, you can add from your deck to your hand 1 Tenyi monster with a different name from the monster sent to the graveyard. So you can go ahead here, if you are playing Peak, you can send like a Taiye, then add like an Ashuna or a Vishuda Vashuda, and then you can go ahead and peek back the Taie and do full combo. Or if you're in a weird situation where they have like a window, or you know that they have window coming, you can try to bait the summon of this, because you can go like normal Mo Yi, summon a token. Your opponent will activate Schism right away, summon the window. You are now locked out of special summoning. You will go Vessel effect, and then you'll send Vashuda to the graveyard. And then you'll add like Ashuna or Adhara, whichever one you want. And then since you went Moyi and you have a normal monster through the token, you can use the Vashuda in your graveyard to actually banish itself and then return the window to the extra deck. So that's another thing that you should really know as far as technical play goes and how to play around a window. Go like Moyi, summon token, they'll summon window, use Vessel, send Vashuda, and then, or if you have Vashuda already in your hand, you can go ahead and just like banish the Vashuda, which is also equally very nice. So there's a lot of different options that you can go with as far as that is. I do really enjoy the 10E package for that alone, because you can really bait negates and really deal with problem cards that you otherwise couldn't. Because this just says target a card your opponent controls. So even if it's like a floodgate that you're worried about, let's say it's like a Gozen match or a rivalry or what have you, you can go ahead and use a Vashuda to bounce things like that. Now, what's a very big problem in this deck is Token Collector. As you may know, you can summon this thing from the hand or the graveyard. This has always been a very big problem for the deck as it stands, but you can always use things like Triple Tactics Talent or any other way to kind of like snatch the collector. And what a lot of people are doing right now is they'll make Baguska, which is also just another really cool card. I believe that when it's in attack position, it can be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, which is equally very cool just because it's something that you're realistically just making Zeus with, so it doesn't really matter. Or if you really need it as like a stun card, you can put it in defense for a turn and then pass, and then get back to your turn at least to have the extra draw to see what you can do. But that's usually the best option right now to deal with the token collector in this deck, even though it is the scariest thing, is that trying to use things like talent to steal it, then use it as Xyz material to go into things like Baguska. And the next thing I want to talk about is there is a very nice interaction here between Chizao and Grand Duke. Grand Duke is your level 10. It's very big as well because it gains 100 attack for each and defense, for each banished card, I believe. And it's very nice too because if a card is banished, you can banish a card from your opponent's grave and field non-targeting. So these work in conjunction with each other because Chizao can banish a card from the grave and then imperm a monster on the board. And then you can go ahead and use the Grand Duke's effect behind it. So you get a negate and then a banish from 2 spots. So I think that's very important as well because it's just a very nice interaction to know in the deck. So if you ever see this on the board, just know that if anything is banished, it's going to be a rough go if you have anything on your field or in your graveyard. The next thing that I want to bring up is Baroness de Fleur. Baroness de Fleur can only negate once while it's on the field, so make sure that you're on top of that. This card can only negate 1 time while it's on the field. Now, it can bring itself off the field and reborn in the standby phase, but most of the time, if you do bait that 1 negate, it is not going to be a problem again. So definitely make sure that you're on top of that, as that is very, very important to know, that I feel like a lot of people may not know right off the rip right now. But enough said about that. The other thing is that the 10Es or the DPE package is one or the other. You cannot play both, and that's because of Ashuna. Ashuna and the Fusion Destiny both have a similar effect, where the effect of Ashuna will lock you straight up into Worms. The effect of the D Hero, again, will lock you into, I believe, Dark Heroes. So they're both kind of like turn-ending cards, like you do them at the end. So like at the end of your combo, you'll drop like the Anaconda or the Fusion Destiny, go do your DPE. Or you use the Ashuna to go into like your links if you're playing a more link heavy build with like the monk and whatnot. Or if you're trying to go into another synchro that is a worm, you can go ahead and use this effect. But even sometimes you'll need it just like breaking a board, right? Because you'll go into like your Vashuda off of this and then go into your monk and then bounce a card and like try to go into your Chizao and just stay under like worms. That's where like the Grand Duke really comes into play because it's very, very strong in that situation where you are locked into worms. So that you still have like a playable board, right? But these two are very much so one or the other. You cannot play both, which is fine. You don't need this to play the game right now. Like it's a very good card, but you have to realize that it's not like be all end all. It's very, very good, but you don't like need it because even like the 10Es alone do so much for the deck that these are very important in my opinion. I honestly would rather just play the 10Es, but I've seen a lot of builds play this too. Now, I do want to spend some time building this deck with you because there is a lot of very important things to note. And I took a lot of time. It took me, honestly, about a week and a half really trying to make this deck right and really try to make it to a point where I would feel comfortable playing at an event tomorrow. And so with this, I really kind of took ratios and thought about them for a long time. The one blackout here is really important though, because you don't want to play multiple, because you want to see as many playable cards in your hand as possible, especially if you're going second. You don't want to see multiple purple cards. I've always had a big philosophy about that, and that's just like the less purple cards you can play, the better. And if you're ever grinding past like turns 4, 5, 6, if you're relying on having this, then you're probably in a very bad position anyway. But like being able to resolve the one alone is just very strong. And then after that, I wouldn't rely solely on this. I'd be relying more on my extenders, because like the GGYGO can search this the first time, but after the first time, you're kind of like, all right, like I'd rather just be searching like my longs, my taie to get back into the game, going to like Baxia or your board breakers rather than being reliant on this. I'm playing 2 GGYGO. I've seen some lists play 1. You kind of need 2. It's really important, honestly, because of the fact that you can get free searches on this. The other thing, too, is that a lot of people are only playing 2 taie. I'm going to test out the 2 taie. I feel like you should be running 3, but I feel like it's also just like fine at 2 because you have a number of ways to get to it. The other thing, too, is I only play 2 Ecclesia. So this is a reason, though, again, is the fact that it's a spellcaster. And you don't want your hands to really, like, clunk. And so I feel like the 2 are fine, though, because, like, these are just trying to get you to these anyway. And that means that you're already playing, like, so this is 5 and 2. So you're already playing, like, 7 ways to get to your main starter, which is more than enough, plus the 3 emergence with its 10. So you don't really need more than just that. That's, like, way many, you know? So you can play more utility in that slot rather than, like, a 3rd Ecclesia. Now, you have to think about the format objectively. I feel like Chalice right now is honestly just insane with cards like Scythe being in the format, because when it's summoned, you can go ahead and chain the Chalice to it, which is super strong. You can activate the Chalice on like a Baron, or like whatever negation needs to be done on the board, mostly for Scythe, so you can actually play the game. This is why you play so many cards like this. Because you don't want to like outright lose, right? That's where like Droplet, if you have them, is very, very good as well. In this build in particular, I'd probably be playing Droplet over Imperm if I own them, but I don't. But it's still something where like if you don't want to play Droll, you can even just play Droplet, Imperm, and Chalice, which honestly is really amazing right now because effect negation is crazy at the moment. The other thing is that I'm playing 3 Droll. I feel like this is objectively the best card right now to be playing because I don't really respect Nibiru right now because Flunder can put up a barrier statue on someone 5. And then Swordsoul really shouldn't care about that because if you open like the Long of the Emergence and you're going into the Baron anyway, and then like we have Bird Up, which is pretty susceptible to it. You kind of trade with the Utopic Future, which is I guess okay. So it has like its implication, but I'd rather like side Nibiru and main Droll because Droll just hits everything right now, right? If you're playing against Flunder, it shuts off their entire turn. Sword searches a lot, let alone like Prosperity and whatnot. So you can go ahead and Droll them and it shuts them down pretty hard. Dragon shuts them down pretty hard. VW, it can shut them down for a bit. There's a lot of things that Droll really just hurts right now. So I feel like objectively it's just fine. The other thing too that I did here was I actually just added in the Tenyis. I was going back and forth pretty hard in DP or Tenyi, but I feel like Vessel is just way too good of a card. Vishut is way too good of a card. And then Adhara allows you for grind game, being able to add back your pieces. So I really feel like this is just objectively fine. The second engine, you always have to determine if it's worth it or not. I feel like this is because it directly affects the main engine that I'm trying to do here, and it really helps it grind throughout multiple turns. So this is why I'm very excited about the 10E variant instead. I feel like mostly at new tournaments when I'm actually very excited to see this deck start playing out and doing well. The other thing too that we see in the extra deck is the one Berserker. This card is just very good. Again, when you activate that Ashuna, you're locked into Worms. This is another synchro that you can go into. If a monster effect is activated, you can actually quick effect banish it, which is also very nice. You have the double monk for when you need to just get your tennies off the board. Then you also have the Shaman. If they were out like your Berserker or your Chizao, even your Grand Duke, you can just go ahead and Shaman it back. You can't use their effects because you're locked into like 10 effects. But at the end of the day, like if you're just trying to like end your turn at that point, it's still nice to have these back on the board rather than just not have them, right? So that's where I feel like the Shaman's actually just pretty important. It's also just a nice generic like Link 2 to go into there at that point. So and the other thing I want to bring up is, are there cards that accomplish your deck's goal? And I feel like that's Instant Fusion. You can't really play this in every deck, but I feel like it's really nice with the Magic Key because it just allows you to have that extra tuner on the board that you wouldn't have otherwise to go into your Chizao. Just another way to basically play around Imperm and Valor and Chalice, because these are just very important cards right now in the format. So you're going to be seeing a lot of them. So it's just another way to be able to play around that. Now you guys know my favorite question of all time, which is, can you play a pot card? And here, absolutely, we can play Pot of Prosperity. It's more than fine here. Just another very great option for the deck. So the extra deck also got rounded out very well here. We have the Baguska with the Zeus. The double Baxia, again, just very, very strong. We have the one Yazi, the Dragite, which is a spell and trap negate, and then our Baron. So the deck itself has a very solid overall build here that I would definitely play at a tournament tomorrow, honestly. The deck itself has been working out perfectly online, and I've really just been trying to make it as optimized as possible. So I really hope that you guys take this build with you and really test it out to the best of your ability. So I do want to give you an insight to how I would side in this deck. So my side would look a little something like this. 3 Nibiru, 1 Protos, because again, this is just like game versus multiple decks right now. 3 Dark Ruler, because you want more board breaking cards in the deck, honestly, just to be able to shut your opponent down ASAP. Double Cosmic, double Twin, because back row is always a problem. And then triple Anti-Spell and 1 IO, because just shutting down Fusion Destiny alone is very good. But other board breaking cards like the Dark Rulers, the Lightning Storms, you just want to be able to shut them off ASAP. That's where these cards are just very essential. And I like these still a lot right now. But they are just very good in the game. So I do hope that you enjoy this build. I would love to hear your comments down below and how you would build it, what you think about my build, if there are things you would change. I'm always open to suggestions, but I do really believe in this build so far. And again, just testing has went fantastic with this. So tomorrow is my 5K subscriber special. If you are seeing this video, it is going to be 11/13 at 10 a.m. EST that my tournament will go live. Tournament signups will be done by 9 a.m. EST. Again, we'll be giving out this first place prize by Rubicon Gaming Designs. I really appreciate you all for sending me this wonderful mat and field center. Honestly, it looks amazing. I just got it in the mail today for the prizing, so I do hope that whoever wins this is very excited about this, because I would be myself. For second place and third place, we do have the Box Abode, we have the Megatins, and then we have the Cyber Structure deck. The other thing I do want to mention is that if you use GGYGO mats for 5% off their mats on their site, I'm sure that you can find some really nice things over there. I do really want you guys to go check out the Invocation box, though. It does look very nice. I might be ordering one of those on a pre-order myself, just because it does look so cool. And normal summon Alistair because it's Yu-Gi-Oh. So the information is that the tourney will be on DB on November 13th. Entry will be $5. It's going to be capped at 150 players. And then if you do want to enter, send me your deck list with your entry. And then I'll be able to give you my PayPal as well if you need that already. So the next thing that I want to do is shout out Midnight Dreams. You are fantastic. If you guys do not know Midnight Dreams, go on Facebook, look at his page. Just an absolute wonderful display of art. He does a amazing job. Honestly, I can't credit him enough. He did my avatar, and then I went back to him for my field center design, which is my first merch, and I cannot believe that this is what he made. This is so fantastic. I'm all hooked up into a Shizuku mech. I have the little logo here with GGYGO, all the shading. It just looks fantastic, man. You have my socials on the back. This is like, it just could not have went better. And if you look at Rose, these are actually the symbols on Rose's card. Like, this is, it just looks so amazing, and I'm just so stoked about this. I really want to hear you guys' feedback in the comments on what you guys think about this as well. I am going to be selling these in about a week or two. I'll be making a video on it and telling you guys how you can go about purchasing one. But I am very, very excited. For the first like 20 sales, I believe I'm going to be handing out signed rays as well. So make sure that you are on top of being one of those top 20. Because I do really, really enjoy this, and I can't wait for all of you to be able to go out to tournaments and use this as your field center. I do hope that my guide helped you today, because it's a deck that I've been playing for a very long time. I wanted to focus some on the deck building aspect and still some on the theory and the technical play side of things, because they're both very important to talk about. Even if I do talk about deck building for a little bit longer, it's still because building the deck is as important as talking about the theory behind the deck. And moving forward, as the deck really grows into the format, we'll be making another video on it to really give more updates, more technical play, and more insight into the deck. So I do hope that everyone has a wonderful day. If you are new here, leave the subscribe, because we are on our way to 10K. I love all of you guys for the constant support. It's honestly so amazing. If you want to be a part of my community, go into the description below, find the link to my Discord, join the family in the ever growing testing circle, and I'll be checking out all of you guys in the next video. I hope that you guys all have a wonderful night, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks.